All right, welcome. Today we are going to be having a panel discussion talking about unlocking security careers, focusing on skills, mindset, and learning from mistakes. I'm actually very excited about this because, as I think we'll see, a lot of us have very different and unique paths that ultimately, though, guided us into careers in cybersecurity. And I'm sure the panelists will all talk about how such a career is both super fulfilling, super enjoyable, and something that's very, very meaningful. So, to start as kind of an intro, I want to ask each of our esteemed panelists a question that basically is to tell us about your current position and a short story of how you built this career path, how you got here. And again, really kind of the goal is to show the variety of paths that led us all here today. So let's
I guess I'm the first one to talk about myself. Again, my name is Oleg Stukalenko. I'm a lead product manager at Moonlock by MacPo. And my career path into security wasn't as straight as for some people, because I'm a product manager first and foremost. So I created products most of my career life. And the opportunity has a reason when we discovered that malware removal in Kyiv-Mohyla can do much more, can help more people than it has been doing at the moment. And we talked to a lot of people and we researched this topic more deeply. That's how Moonlock was created, to help more people on Macs to protect themselves from cybersecurity threats. That's when I started diving deeper into the cybersecurity, learning about privacy as well, because these topics are connected. And that's why I'm here. We are trying to develop Moonlock into something that will be useful to lots of people around the world. And right now, Moonlock Engine is working in Kyiv-Mohyla and already helping people around the world. But we want to make this even larger. And a big part of this is education, knowing your threats, and also inspiring people to join this path. So that's it. That's it for me.
Thank you, Oleg.
My turn. Yep. So hi there, I'm Andrii, and my career in cyber or information security was, like, I believe, pretty straightforward. It started 21 years ago when I decided to join State University of Information Communication Technologies, right? Lots of buzzwords, and I successfully graduated, I believe, in 2008 and joined a company which was implementing cybersecurity products. In 2013, I joined IBM security team in Ukraine, and since the time we are deploying dozens of tools from IBM, perform consulting, also implement consulting practices in Ukraine and outside of our country together with our team. And I believe we had lots of fun with projects in Ukraine. I mean, so there are lots of, I believe, organizations or our customers that we work with this here. So if you do perform some banking transactions, if you buy something in a retail shop, if you go to the gas station, I don't know, if you somehow communicate with our government, there is some part of IBM security in each and every communications with them, I believe. And I do truly believe that you can enjoy your career in cybersecurity. There are dozens of innovations coming each year, so it's not boring or not like you will never stuck. I believe at some point you will always need to develop yourself. Yep, that's it.
Hello again, and my career in cybersecurity started from my career in computer science, right? I was a software developer for many years, and on some point I started thinking if applications that I create are really good applications, that point in your career of developer where you start thinking, are you doing things correctly? And in my case, I was like, am I doing things securely? And I start diving into security. I started from like data security and cryptography, trying to protect the data in my apps. And then I switched to like regular application security and more complicated cases of encryption and secure communications and protocols, right? So I'm just a software developer with a specialization in security.
So I have the strangest position in this panel discussion. I think no one dream of become deputy dean or etc. So as psychologist says, all our trauma came from childhood. So when I was a young boy at the age of 17 years, I was dreaming to find some university where I can study red teaming, but there was no such program, no possibility to study this. And previously I was interested in cybersecurity in the age of 14, 15, 16. So after 14 years, I come back with this program, and now I'm deputy dean, so that's all.
I love that. It's very full circle. Yeah, it was interesting. I remember I grew up without computers in a strange way, and so they always had a draw to me. And so when I went to university, I had to study computer science. I figured that was a good way to get in. But if I'm being honest, it was a little boring. I remember sitting in algorithms class and database class, and I'm like, I love these computers, but this part is just not that interesting. And then around the same time, one of my friend's computers, his Macs, was infected with adware. And he was like, oh, Patrick, you do computer stuff, And I think this happens to all of us. We get asked by our friends and our relatives to be their IT support. So I dug into his computer and found some interesting malware, and I realized there weren't a lot of tools, especially for Macs, that could help us uncover malware. This was many, many years ago. And so I started to develop some tools, and that really was a passion for me. And the plus side was my friend was a surfboard shaper, and I'm really passionate about surfer. And as a thanks for fixing his computer, he shaped me a board. So I was like, okay, maybe this whole being a nerd thing is paying off. If your friends are happy, we get surfboards, and that really helped launch my career. And since then, I've been super, super happy about it. And so I think we're all stoked to be here. So this leads to the next question. Oleg, we'll start with you again. We talk a lot about how amazing cybersecurity careers are. So you get great money, you get to travel, you do really interesting stuff. That's all really true and amazing. But I think it's important also to talk about any common misconceptions. And so you're all leaders in your respective fields. So I'd be very interested to hear what are some common misconceptions that you've encountered, and how can they be addressed? I think it's important to be transparent about the fields and challenges we face.
Yeah. This is a great question to start, and I wanted to just jump in and address the elephant in the room, and we already heard this word today before. It's boring. Yeah, you know this one, but it's not, right? You agree? Because from my perspective, the new tools and the new approaches that are coming out, making it even more like a game. You can find different almost games, and you can also find real games. Like I've seen the other day the game Hacker on Steam, or is it called It's called something like that. It's definitely will show you, if you know nothing about security, it show you how it works from the basic concepts. Then you can move on to more complicated things like hack the box and similar. And in this gamified form, you can gain real knowledge that is applicable in real life. So it's definitely not boring. You just need to choose the part of the cybersecurity that is interesting to you. For example, like Patrick just showed us that he was looking at macOS malware just because his friend asked him to, and it became not boring for him, and that's it. His career for his life has been born, and he's here now. So just keep an open mind and search especially the new tools and approaches that would allow you to make it interesting and fun for you. Because the fun is a really important part, I think, and I'll be talking about the fun a lot. I think the process of breaking something or building it up from scratch or reversing it is really could be fun for you and engaging, and you will then create a whole career out of it. Thanks.
Andrii?
Thanks. So it definitely there are lots of fun in cybersecurity, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to dedicate my career, in IBM, to cyber, because I had so many offers inside of the company to move to other teams, hardware or software or cloud, and cybersecurity is always a lot of fun, a lot of, many challenges, I would say. Regarding misconceptions, I had a lot of fun of them on the beginning of my career, like in IBM, because when I entered the office for the first time, I was drinking coffee in the kitchen like you do it today, and people were coming to the kitchen and introducing themselves and asking me, who am I? I said, hey, I'm IBM security. They told me, will you provide us with some new cool badges, or are you responsible for CCTV cameras around the office? What do you actually do? And that's one of the misconceptions or challenges in cybersecurity, is that there are still, after almost 12 years, there are still many people around the world who don't even know about cybersecurity, and that's one of the funniest challenge to us, that to represent ourselves, to explain to people what we are doing, and explaining one fun thing, that you cannot apply cybersecurity to only one part of organization, because it's if, for example, only one passenger in airplane wear a seatbelt and the rest not, and that's again a challenge and fun for us, and to explain people actually what we are doing, right, and to represent ourselves.
Can I ask a quick question? What was the funniest answer you gave the people who were asking what do you do?
I said, yeah, I will provide you with the badges, with everything you want, with laptops, and I still do have some fun in the office, because
you still do provide them with laptops.
Yeah, it's if they want, they get anything from me.
Cool.
Thank
you. But for now, in Ukraine, IBM security team I believe we are the only one team that actually has some, how to say, merchandise or branding or something like that. And so we do really provide something tangible to the people,
Thanks.
So that's not a real misconception, is it? Yeah, I think that one of the misconceptions is that you need to have education in cybersecurity space to be a cybersecurity engineer. I think no. People from different careers, from different educations, they can continue their careers as cybersecurity engineers. They can focus on building, they can focus on breaking, they can focus on threat modeling, they can do monitoring and DevSecOps, right? They can work with standards. So there are so many options possible in cybersecurity. If you have seen the really nice picture with cybersecurity domains, the amount of domains is 30 or 40. That's a lot of things that you can do, which makes cybersecurity fun and which allows people from different backgrounds to find things they really enjoy and to switch once they get bored with one domain, to switch, to tweak some things, to try something else, right? So I think that this is one of the misconceptions. No, you don't need to have cybersecurity education to be successful and to be happy in this field.
Yeah, totally agree. And I want to tell about two misconceptions on my mind about education in cybersecurity. They are linked between each other. First of all, that studying cybersecurity as general field, not specified path, but general field. Well, when you study a lot, but you're not a specialist in anything. It's first one, and second one, when you're studying cybersecurity and you doesn't study enough computer science, because you cannot study only cybersecurity and don't study computer science.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with all of those. I really like that we touched on the concept of education and the different paths. Some of the most brilliant cybersecurity researchers I know, didn't even graduate high school. So education is very important, but I think it's not necessarily a must.
It's not a limit.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, and I think
It
sometimes,
depends on quality of education.
yeah, that's also very, very true. And so I think this leads us into the next question, which is what do you consider the most critical skill for someone starting a career in cybersecurity, and how can they best develop that, while in school or if they're taking that education route?
That's a really broad question, and I have several answers to that, but I think I will focus on only one or two of them. I think and I will leave the technical skills for now put to the side, because I think there are people that are better suited to discuss that. From my point of view, from my perspective, one of the really great skills is persistence, because you're gonna fail a lot of times working with cybersecurity, and not only being persistent, just going straight on and hitting that wall again and again until it breaks, but also being persistent and clever at the same time. So you can sometimes go around or dig under or keep generating ideas until you achieve what you wanted to. That's really important for cybersecurity, either for blue team or red team or anything in between. And this cleverness could be learned, because human beings are not patient beings. They need to, and want to achieve success fast. That's not always the case in cybersecurity, and you need to be resilient to be able to overcome that. A very good approach to get this quality is to watch somebody who has it, who had successes, and where you can watch the process of making something happen in cybersecurity. That's really great so like a mentor or somebody who can work with you, or even working in a group of similar-minded people. That's really important. And I'll speak about another one. It's memory. When you're working with complex systems, you usually need to keep a lot of it in your RAM, for the lack of a better word. Because if you unload something, you can just not comprehend the whole system, and without this comprehension, you will probably miss the opportunity to break it, either if you are trying to do that or to protect it. So this capacity to hold two complex things in your mind, from my perspective, is very important. Thank you.
So it's my turn again, and again, it's sometimes difficult to give a straightforward answer to each and every of those questions, but in cyber career, like I will share just maybe mine example or colleagues that I'm working for, again, like already 15 years. For me, one of the most crucial skills is to grow in yourself a capability to learn something new. Because in 2008, when I joined my first real, cybersecurity job, they told me like, hey, there is a web application firewall. Do you know what is web application firewall? I said no. So okay, that's your problem now. Like, go and do your task, right? And after that, I was onboarded in new projects, and I really spent lots of time in educating myself on new technologies, right? And now for me, a big challenge is like the next era, like post-quantum encryption. So I do it, try to understand what are the risks in terms of quantum computing for for cybersecurity, because first, it's my job to do that, and it's interesting for me. So don't ever lose interest. It's really crucial for cybersecurity, because when you lose interest, you will stop growing. And for the moment, cybersecurity and IT has so high pace, I would say, it's changing so dramatically. So if you start stop learning, stop educating yourself. If you stop investing yourself, right? Sometimes maybe you can even think, instead of going to vacation somewhere, go and maybe pay yourself some nice courses from, I don't know, from SANS Institute. There are like really, really nice cybersecurity courses there. So invest in yourself and never stop learning. So for me, it's, I believe, most crucial skills in cyber.
Yeah, I would like to copy everything you said. So, yes, I agree the same. Because in cybersecurity, as we mentioned, there are so many different domains, right, that has some specific knowledge, that the skill, how to learn, how to process information is one of the important ones. For example, there are certain courses and approaches of how to learn, like learning how to learn. Because all those NIST standards, like 200 pages, 400 pages, 600 pages, you're not expected to read it and understand it and learn it by heart, but you're expected to read it, at least to scroll it, and then know what's inside the standard. So next time you're thinking about this issue or you have these questions, you can remember, okay, this is part of this standard, let me go and check. Right? Building those mind maps in your brain or using external tools, which is okay, like robots should work instead of humans. But this is one of the skills, how to control and try to keep up with everything that is happening. It's very important, especially when you're very sure that you build perfect security defenses and then the morning comes and new incident and new catastrophe happened and you need to learn why it happened, what you should do, you need to patch, and then continue to your regular duties, right? That's part of job.
So, as red team boy, I want to totally agree with Oleg that persistence is a good skill. Then, on the side of soft skills, I want to highlight, I think, two main skills nowadays, which I hope my students will get. First of all, problem solving in the wide sense that you should not only know technical side of task, but you should know the way of how you can complete that task. Second one is to be a team player, because nowadays there are no single guys that can done by themselves, so you should be definitely a team player. And about hard skills, I think first of all, it's a strong theoretical background which give you understanding on what are you doing. Because to be pen tester, this is not rocket science, it's just codes and that's all. But understand what happens when you put code in some input is very important. And the second one is to having hands-on experience, because when you study something in the only theoretical side, it might be not so useful for you.
Thank you. Those are all great. I really like that we touched on persistence a few times, because that's the answer I always give. I remember as a college student, I was surrounded by people that were way smarter than me. I did an internship at NASA, and I was probably the dumbest person there. But I realized that if you stick to something and give it your best, and really have that persistence and that motivation, that can take you way farther. And there's a lot of studies on this that show that people who are maybe incredibly intelligent, we all know the students who don't study, show up, they get 100 on the exam. And for me, that was always frustrating. I was kind of jealous of that. Those individuals often struggle once they get into the real world, because they're used to getting things almost easily. And eventually there's going to be something that's hard. And so if you are very grounded and feel very, that you can really push through and have that persistence, that will get you super, super, super far.
And also, for every and each of one of us, there is somebody that is better than us.
Oh, always.
And you still have to accept these challenges. That's why you need this persistence and create it as your trait, build it, and then you will achieve what you're set to do.
Yeah, I would say that's really, really good advice. Another good advice that and maybe a misconception or a skill that I think is important is, and this was touched on by a few of the panelists, is to find something that you love or you're really interested in the field of cybersecurity. You mentioned there's a lot of breadth, and one of the misconceptions is that maybe we're good at everything in cybersecurity, and I am horrible at a lot of things in cybersecurity. Like, tell me to reverse engineer an Android file, I have no idea what to do. And so early on in my career, I remember I did an internship at one of the US government intelligence agencies, and it was neat because we could kind of bounce around from different office to office. And I remember when I entered, I was this know-it-all college student, and I was gonna learn everything and be great at everything, and very early on I realized, wow, you're only probably gonna be good at one thing. And so, it's a breadth versus depth thing. And so for me, it was really beneficial to pick one thing that I really liked, which was kind of malware, reverse engineering, focus on that, and then try to become an expert in that space. So that's a good advice, a skill, I think, is combine that with persistence, try not to learn everything, pick something you love and focus on that, and that will, I think, take you super, super far. Kind of leads into the next question, other skills. We've talked a lot about the technical skills and diving into the technical details. So this next question, though, is how important is it to understand the business side of cybersecurity, and how can students develop this understanding along their technical skills? Is this something that they should even be aware of? And if it's something that's important, what would you recommend they focus on to maybe become more well-rounded?
Yeah, definitely it is important, and it depends heavily on what kind of business you're working with or protecting or whatever your role is. But in any case, understanding the business will give you more opportunities to influence it. Because simple example, if you're working with somebody who makes decisions and you're just a tech and you're trying to explain why your incident or some situation is important, why it's a risk, you have to understand business to convey this correctly and to influence this person to make the right decision. That's a simpler example. The harder example, for example, you are a tech and you're trying to learn something new or to achieve something. Usually people try to Google it, try to read manuals, pages, but sometimes if you understand business well, you can just have a shortcut, some communication. For example, this is a story from our Moonlock lab. When they are selecting a new tool that they need to improve their malware analysis, they could have read documentations, but instead they set up a call with Elastic, and the person from Elastic just explained everything to them, and they found a way better touch points for using this tool, as well as got a new connection because they knew the business we're trying to do, and they knew the right questions that are needed to be asked. So that's probably, and one more thing, I remember one more. And it's already been touched on. So if you're alone, you are probably going to be stuck doing technical tasks. If you are a part of the team and understand the goals of the team, what this team is trying to achieve, you will also get a sense of achievement, a sense of purpose. Why are you doing this? And it's a great motivation to work with this feeling that you're doing something important and you're part of a bigger and broader achievement of many people. Thanks.
And I believe I will summarize a bit the short speech from my colleague. Like for each and every activity, like in my life, in IBM business, I always ask myself like 3 key questions, because that would simplify my communication with each and every stakeholder inside or outside of our company. It's like what we are doing, how we are doing, and why we are doing, right? And if you work in like any kind of like a company, and if you understand like the answer on the question, why are you doing cybersecurity here at all, you already understand the business context. Because like a short answer is yes. There is like no cybersecurity without business, right? Or maybe if you are like managed security service provider, so your business is a cybersecurity, right? Like, but again, you need to understand your business model, your core processes, and you need to protect them, right? And you need to protect core assets. So how to understand it better, right? Maybe in order to understand your company, or maybe like shareholders or board members, right? You can go and take a short mini MBA course. So there are dozens of them online, free of charge, or maybe for some fee. Again, like just go to those courses, take part in them, and again evaluate business model of a company where you work against the knowledge you know. And again, you'll get the insight of the key answer, like why you are here, right? And you'll be able to answer on that question from business, like what are you doing? Like, do we really need like application security if we are, I don't know, like just a coal mine, right? Probably, maybe no, but maybe there is some kind of like an API that can, through which those smart things or miners can be managed, right? So yes, they need application security people. So again, in short, answer is yes, you need to understand the business context. And there are multiple ways how to do it.
It's very complicated to answer such questions on this panel, because every of our panelists gives really good points, and here I'm trying to think about something new that they have not already said. Next time we should start from this side.
That's a great idea. We will mix it up.
Right. So what I wanted to add to the points above, yes, obviously as a cybersecurity engineers, like managers, we need to understand business, because cybersecurity is, it has negative value for business. It has negative value in money. This is something that businesses invest in. And you know how they say when firefighters are just at the base and they do nothing, they play cards, it means everything is okay, right? But you are investing in firefighters so they have enough capacity to basically deal with fires. It's a little bit similar with cybersecurity. You are investing a lot of things, but nothing is happening. And nothing is happening is good. Is something that you work on. And understanding business context is very important, because you will communicate to business owners why those things should be invested into cybersecurity. Because businesses want to cut expenses, right? So year after year, chapter after chapter, they will ask questions. Hey, we invest in so much, but nothing is happening. Should we continue investing in cybersecurity? Why? Our application is already secure. We already filled all the items in MSVS, right? So your goal, especially when you go higher in your career from engineering positions to more leadership and management positions, to be able to articulate the value they have, to be able to calculate potential losses, because we are working with probabilities here. To calculate the potential losses of what could happen, and then show the nice charts that, hey, you invest in this, but the potential losses could be these. Are you ready to risk it? Sometimes they are ready to risk it. So write down those decisions, because when incident will happen, and not if, when incident will happen, they will try to look who to blame. And you have everything written down, right? So in cybersecurity, it's really important to understand business context and to communicate with stakeholders and push your agenda, thinking about business, thinking about users.
It's very interesting question, because I think cybersecurity is total about context. For example, when you're working in reverse engineering, if you doesn't know what this software should do, your time will be multiplied twice or more time to find out what's going on here. When you're working with penetration testing, for example, it's also will be much harder to find out some vulnerabilities when you doesn't have a general imagination of business flow behind web applications. So in the tight sense, yes, you should definitely understand context, and in the wider sense, you should know how business working, how business working for big companies, how business working in the sense of earning money, etc. and only if you will have good knowledge of it, you can propose good cybersecurity solution.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with everything that all of you said. I'm glad you touched on the money thing. Sometimes we don't talk about money a lot, but this also goes back to you mentioning the additional opportunities that if you have an understanding of business, it really opens a lot of doors. And I can speak to this personally because I really started super technical, and I always wanted to be super technical. And my colleagues that would go into more management positions, I would maybe be like, you're getting soft. And I wouldn't say I looked down on them, but there was some judgment. And so as people got more into these business roles, I initially was skeptical. As I've gotten a little older and hopefully a little wiser, I've really seen a lot of my friends who have focused more on the business component. It just opened up a ton of doors. It allowed them to start their own businesses and their own startups, which is an amazing opportunity. And I think some of the other panelists said too, just the opportunities and the collaborations, it just makes you as a cybersecurity professional far more employable, opens up doors. And so I think, as students, I would recommend, yes, focus on those technical skills, but also, if there are opportunities to supplement those with business knowledge, mentioned maybe some of the MBA programs. I remember at my university, there were some technical classes that the business school offered that I took. It's an easy A because, you're a cybersecurity professional, you're going to crush it. But you will also learn some interesting business things that will really benefit you in your career and open up a lot of doors. So next up, I want to ask, and Trokhym, we will start with you at the end and come back this way, especially that you're in education. I wanted to ask you, what are some of the key challenges you see in both the current cybersecurity landscape, and how should students and professionals prepare to tackle these? Especially maybe looking a little forward to how do we see the role of the cybersecurity evolving, especially in today's day and age.
Nowadays, cybersecurity landscape is so dynamic that every minute changing something. I cannot say from view of my own program, because on my mind definitely it's the best program. And
go for it.
From perspective of whole Ukrainian education, I think it will be so cool that I am so pretty fancy guy which talking how he is cool and how everyone bad. So I trying to say abstract things.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Very mature.
I think that we had a lack of professionals. In fact, that we doesn't work with cybersecurity of current days. In education, we work with cybersecurity of early 80s, 90 years with telecommunication. My program doesn't have physics. And this is a big problem. And yes, there are several organizations like CIP. You understand about what I'm talking. Which trying to change that thing with support of USAID and etc. to make more specialized specialties. But I don't know. I think only time can change point of view of a lot of university when they realize that they're outsiders and they should change themselves or go out from the cybersecurity education race.
Thank you.
Right. So still, I agree. And I think that one of the challenges is that everything is changing so fast, right? And we do have a lot of new domains like post-quantum or quantum-safe cryptography. Just modern cryptography. It's very cool that people from universities, they know about Caesar cipher. Fantastic. Useless. Absolutely useless. Yeah, CTS, sure. So really, from my perspective, it feels like, at least in my company, when we hire someone as a security engineer, we give them 3 months of additional education, additional learning about modern approaches, about modern standards, frameworks, and tools. Because the software is changing a lot, and it's very complicated to predict the next step. So you kind of need to be on top of the things all the time. And education, some people are given, it's really old. I agree. It's really old. It's outdated. It's good to know fundamentals. That's true, but sometimes you just don't need to learn all the details of all these ancient technologies we don't use anymore, which can be a good opportunity for those who actually like them. They can have, like a COBOL developers, right? They can have it as a specialty and earn a lot of money. You can select another specialty, maybe a little bit more modern. So it's really complicated trying to think about all these modern things with all this old school and outdated knowledge and keep up on the things.
You'll be surprised, but I will disagree a bit, just a bit, just to have some fun. Like over the last week or few months, there were like few events from the past which actually hit security or modern cybersecurity of nowadays. Like, first event came from the company which recently introduced like AI assistant in cybersecurity. It's called Charlotte. So Charlotte will answer on each and every cybersecurity question. Like, it will build playbooks to respond to incident. It will detect malware everywhere on Mac, on, I don't know, Linux, on Windows. And you probably know what happened with this company. They shut down actually half of the world. It was a CrowdStrike. Because what? Like, they didn't implement it, or maybe it was not well implemented, like the basic testing processes, right, before going to production. So that's the first event from the past, I would say. So from like, we can achieve the excellence by executing the basics, right, in cybersecurity as well. Another event from the past is like, it was announced just before the weekend, like the incident which potentially would have a catastrophic impact is that Salt Typhoon, which is a Chinese hacking group, they breached mobile operators in US. So they had access to network equipment, which also which is responsible for tracking users' activity over the internet. So they breached, I believe it was Verizon, it was AT&T, and that was like a result of 30 years old governmental rule to place a backdoor for like NSA, for law enforcement agencies to be able to track users' activities. So don't forget about the past, because there are still dozens of protocols. Can I give you a microphone? No. There are still dozens of protocols like which has dozens of flaws, right? And they are coming from the past because they have not intended to be secure. But of course, think about the future, right? And develop yourself, because now security is about cloud, is about automation, is about integration between dozens of tools and processes which could be automated, right? So each and every task that can be repeated should be automated in security. So keep up the strengths, but don't forget about the past. I believe I will.
Anastasiia, you can counter.
Totally agree. But some protocols and things are so heavily outdated that, like, yes, SSL, good example, thank you. A lot of documentation still says SSL. SSL is deprecated for 20 years. Why? Why? It's called TLS. It's totally different protocol right now. You know what is a modern version of TLS? What is the current version of TLS? 1.3. Yes, what's the point of, like, learning SSL and then those developers write SSL in the documentation? It's not a thing anymore. I agree, it's important to understand how things work, totally. We still are affected by all those ancient techniques, but we should not use it, at least when we are building something new.
Agree. Without but.
Actually, I'm a bit relieved that we switched sides, because I had time to think this time, and I didn't have to answer right away. So thank you. Also, what would you like me to do? I can build up on this platform and go even more into disagreeing side, or we can go in totally different directions. So disagreeing, hands. Not many. Okay, then I totally agree. with what you said, learning new, but keeping in mind there are millions of old and very ancient
Legacy,
technologies
yes.
are still in use, and they're still being serviced, and they are still being used probably by you as well, unknowingly. And somebody services them, and I would think that these people, you know what she did? I had to disagree this. I had to disagree. And they being services by the people who need to know these technologies. Otherwise, they will be easily hackable. Should they be upgraded to new technologies? Of course. But would they? Definitely not, because the 30 years old exploits are still being used. And that's a real danger. And one of the things to do about that is information, spreading the information and talking about the old technologies. You have to deprecate them, you have to stop using them, you have to invest again in something new and something safe. And that is what we as a community can do to spread this knowledge, spread these threats, and to motivate people to do this. And let's talk about that, on that. And we haven't talked about AI a lot. I think this is a great challenge for both sides. AI will accelerate the attacks and also will accelerate the defending side, automate a lot of tasks, and I think it could become even like a very quick cycle of finding the vulnerabilities and patching them and finding and patching and automating it until it's completely automated and a person is eradicated from this equation, which is kind of bad because people will start losing skills. And that's one of my points. So the cybersecurity specialists have to hone their skills, the critical thinking, the systematic thinking, to be able, because this will be a deciding factor if everybody has the same AIs. That's one thing to think about. Building on that, I'd like to say that current technologies and modern things that you will be learning or you are learning, they are great. But just think a few steps ahead. What will happen next? What will happen, for example, if I will talk from my perspective. If we, as the guys that are trying to counteract bad guys before they spread malware, we have to develop more sophisticated espionage techniques to get to the source as fast as we can before they can spread all the bad malware or something like that. So just keep an open mind and devote 15% or 10% of your processing capability to thinking what will happen next. Thanks.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I like that, Anastasiia, I love that your company brings in new people and basically gives them the 3 months. I remember when I started working for the NSA, to hire you, they basically say, do you have a technology degree, computer science or whatever, and can you pass a polygraph? And those are really the only two questions, because once they get in, they kind of have a seat, and they're like, it's cute what you learned in college, but now let's teach you some real stuff, and kind of get you up to speed on what the real adversaries are doing, what advanced nation states capabilities, and so the foundations are super important. And if I didn't have those foundations, I wouldn't even got my foot in the door. But then looking forward was super important, and so. I think that's definitely a challenge in cybersecurity, is balancing, understanding, having some knowledge in the past, especially if you're trying to exploit those systems, versus focusing on the future. And you see companies taking different approaches. Let's just look at Microsoft and Apple. Microsoft is straddled with tech debt. A lot of the vulnerabilities that impact them are from code that's just 10, 20, 30 years old. And Microsoft is very passionate about making sure old things still function. So you can open a document from 20 years ago and it'll still open on Word. Apple, on the other hand, is just like, nope, we don't care about that. That's a big attack surface. If we break your stuff, that's your problem. And it's kind of Apple's way or the highway, but they are arguably way more forward thinking. They evolve a lot quicker, and because of that, at least from a security point of view, there's a lot of benefits because they drastically reduce the attack surface, because a lot of the older protocols weren't designed with security in mind. So yeah, I think it's understanding the past, but focusing more on the future, not getting stuck. So the last question we have is to share a mistake that you made early in your career and how it influenced your approach in cybersecurity, and maybe some advice you can give. And I will start with this. And the question is a mistake you made earlier in your career, but I still make a lot of mistakes even later in my career. So I think that's important. I mean, we like to think that we grow and hopefully become more emotionally mature and wise, which I think I hopefully have. But I still make mistakes. I'm going to focus on a technical mistake because that's easier to explain and also relevant to my talk this morning. So I write software. It's free and open source. It gets used by lots of people around the world. And unfortunately, sometimes it crashes. So I remember I pushed out a new version of my tools. I was very proud about it. And then I started getting bug reports from users. And so I had made a mistake in my code that had caused the software to crash, and that was impacting users' systems. So clearly a mistake. I definitely had to swallow my pride and admit I made a mistake. But I think the key thing is, and I'm sure this will be reiterated by our esteemed panelists, is, okay, it's what you do after that mistake. Figure out, okay, how can I improve? What are the lessons learned? But in that case, I decided to learn more about crash reports. And so my tool that had crashed when the user sent me the crash reports, I learned that was a really great way to troubleshoot what previously was a very intermittent issue that I couldn't replicate on my system. As a developer, it's super frustrating if a user says your software crashes but doesn't give you any context. One of my users was kind enough to send me a crash report. I hadn't looked at crash reports really then, but that was really the inspiration that got me into studying them. And as the talk you saw from this morning, I learned about a ton of other benefits that helped me gain a better understanding to write more robust tools, but also then, in some cases, uncover new malware, 0 days in Apple's macOS operating system. Again, this was all from a mistake. So hopefully I've learned from that mistake, but I think the key is how you respond. Apologize for sure, learn from it, but then maybe it's actually a really amazing learning opportunity that you wouldn't have had unless you made that mistake. So I think there's a lot of values in mistakes. I mean, try not to make them on purpose, but if you do accidentally, maybe think of it as a positive thing and see what you can learn.
Wow, such a great example. I couldn't possibly top that, but
I went first.
I'll share something maybe more general. So I started out as an engineer. I was writing code, and I was focusing on building my tech skills, getting more sophisticated code, trying to design more complex systems. And it was great and all. I switched several jobs, but and I'm building on top of what I've already said. There is a limit to it. So if you want to be more broadly involved into, and I'm going to say this cliche, changing the world, on a smaller scale, of course, not huge, you need to think broader, and that brought me to product management and project management before that. So I wanted to. As an individual, you're very limited at what you can do. As a team, and of course, if it grows more and more, you have more and more abilities to change something, to do something bigger. And I wish I knew that earlier, because then I started building my network, then I started honing on my soft skills, which are very important for building communities, building great teams, building connections, and achieving something with other people. And usually, from what I saw, a lot of people are trying to build tech skills first, and that's great. Just one thing, soft skills, communication skills, public speaking, for example, they are, in my view, a little bit harder to build. They take more time, and they are sometimes frustrating and emotionally challenging for you. The earlier you start to do that, the earlier you will see the benefits of that, even if you're in your technical job. So that would be one of my advice, how to approach this. And that's actually why I'm here today. That's the result of my learning from that mistake.
Okay, my turn. Okay. We are mixing up the order. I would agree with the soft skills and the attitude. When I was younger, especially more like in a technical way of thinking, I thought about different frameworks and standards as about the rules. You know, these are the rules, these are the must-have things. And I had a lot of really heated discussions because as a security engineer, I believe that we need to implement all the things. We need to follow the standard says so, come on, right? And only later I kind of switched, I tried to change my like attitude that those are not rules. Those are guidelines and best practices based on experience of other people. They are not some truths in the world, right? These are somebody else's experiences that are shaped as a standards or frameworks. It doesn't make them the last, the true rule. So I changed my attitude and tried to work on security not as a we need to follow all these and otherwise we are failed. No, we need to follow most of this maybe, which makes sense. It was totally okay for me to say, okay, yes, okay, we will not implement this security control, although I believe that we need to implement it, but right now that's okay, we just make it a stop. We won't go into heated discussion. We will discuss the arguments from security and product standpoints. We will write down the decision and that's okay. We can reiterate it later. Maybe they are right, maybe I am right, maybe nobody is right, maybe the situation will change, maybe the application will add a new feature, maybe the application will fail. It does not, it's not worse to consider those standards as a rules, right? The world is much more complicated than that.
Andrii?
Okay. Sorry, Patrick, I had a question. Too.
Yeah.
Like, you mentioned crashing software like many times. So were you IBM Lotus Notes developer? Because it crashed so many times on each and every.
Maybe we all suffer from crashes.
Yeah, because like I believe audience here like never worked with Lotus Notes, and believe me, you are happy people, right? So because that was
There were like books written about it, right? And just it's old school.
It's old school, and it was crashing like all the time, and we are happy that we sold this division to some company. But coming back to mistakes, I like probably like I will speak maybe not about my I don't know years about starting when I started my career in cyber, but about later years, maybe like 5 years ago. I have discovered in myself that I maybe stopped to accept so many challenges as like I did like comparing to 15 years ago, right? Because those challenges that I accepted 15 years ago, they actually brought me to like this position or this role or this way of thinking or my life, which I do enjoy, right? In most of the cases. So what I wanted to recommend to you is that always like be open, right, to new challenges, to new technologies, because that gives you the capability to learn something new and to work with people like you never knew before. And believe me, in like 90% of the cases, maybe even like higher, that always pays you back, right? Even if you lose few like or sleepless months or nights or years, believe me, you will always be paid back for that. So please accept challenges, right? That's my recommendation.
I just wanted to say that when you're a student, you should use all of your possibilities, because none of us doesn't thought that he or she will be at this position when we was students. So first of all, when you have any possibility, use it as much as you can. There will be no day when you woke up with thought that, oh, I become a professional in something. You just keep going, and only after that you find yourself as professional at one day, but much years after. And the second one, try not to run only for the money, because in perspective you can reach more money in future if you will find as yourself as a true professional of something. So
that is great advice. So true. So true. All right, well, this wraps up our discussion. Let's give a round of applause for our esteemed panelists.
Thank you, guys. I am inspired to pursue a career in security, so thank you. That was good. Do you have any questions? Anyone? Oh, yeah.
What advice would you give for folks when they finish their education and they start going looking at companies to join, and in terms of assessing them for like the company culture and like if that company is going to be a good fit for what they want to do and just generally be a good company to work for?
I could give you like, if you like the company, what it does, if you go like through the streets and you see, I don't know, the signs of the company, like, or their office, or you do interact with the company in your daily life, again, it could be like a retail store or whatever. So if you like them, just try it, because if you enjoy the company, the business they do, and how they do business, you'll enjoy your career in that company.
I would say side channel attacks. I mean, it might be complicated to learn about company internal culture and like technical excellences and how they work based just on their website, right? Because this is usually polished information targeted at someone, maybe not you, right? But looking at the maybe their blog posts, maybe what their people that work there, what they post in social media, in the public social media, I don't say you to break and hack into. But maybe if you have some friends that work there, or even if you don't have, just connect to someone in LinkedIn from that company and just ask, hey, I'm thinking about it. What do you think? What do you feel? How do you like it? Would you recommend it? Right, and if you're connecting to someone who is not a C-level, because we know that how their recommendation might look like, if you're connecting to a fellow, like to a person on the position you want to be, right, most likely they will give you some information. It should be enough to have some kind of decision. So side channels and OPSEC, like operational security.
For me, I think I really appreciate that you mentioned the money thing, because when I left college, I was looking at different career opportunities, and a lot of my friends in tech who went to work for Silicon Valley companies, and the salaries for those were amazing, but so were the demands. And I kind of went a different route and ended up working for the government initially that paid, I don't want to say next to nothing, but paled in comparison to what the Silicon Valley tech companies were paying. And largely I went that route because what I thought the government was doing, like, I thought it was really cool. I was like, I could learn to be like a hacker and get this invaluable experience. But it was tough because especially when my friends were making a ton more money, I was like, isn't this the goal, to make lots of money? But in retrospect, that was a very wise decision, lucky decision, because I really enjoyed the time there, and they heavily invested in education, and I learned a ton, which really then set my cybersecurity career on an amazing trajectory. So, Mikey, thank you for your question. I would say, money is obviously important, but also look at what the company does. Are you going to be passionately connected there? Do they invest in education? Do they give back to the community? So kind of like, what's the vibe? I know that's kind of a cliche term, but I think that's super important. And I think in the long run, you'll actually make more money because you will learn more, you will find your passion, you won't burn out, and it's a very healthy approach. So that would be my advice.
Okay, well, go ahead.
No, you first.
Unfortunately, yeah. I'd like to agree wholeheartedly with what Anastasiia said. Just get to know somebody, go to some meetup, get acquainted with engineers, with different kinds of people. Get to know as many people as you possibly can if you're considering this very seriously. And also one more thing, look not only on the position that you're trying to get, look on the whole career path that you're going to build with this company. Because, of course, switching companies is great and all, and sometimes it's affecting your salary in a very positive ways. But I'm not recommending you do that, because building and thinking ahead and how would you progress through your career is a great thing to understand if this job is for you. Because it's for example, great paying job, but it's a dead-end job. And you will be doing things that you're not so excited about doing. Probably look otherwise.
I have a very practical life hack. How we was searching for the partners. On one of the events, I found, for example, Nazar Timoshik, who will be later today. And I came to him and talk a little bit and find out his vibe. And I understand that, yes, we can do some business with that guy.
What's his vibe?
Very strong. Yeah.
So go see Nazar.